When is enough enough? How bad do things have to get before something has to give? To speak to that, here's Reda Rishaug. Ryan, how close are we to saying this team may need a shakeup in net or maybe even behind the bench to turn this thing around?
Well, it's definitely something that's reverberating loud around town right now, Gino. 25 games into the season, they've been a shadow of themselves. They've been unable to pull themselves out of this consistent rut that they've been in. So those are questions that I think at this point are fair to ask. Fans are asking them. I'll give you my sense on things. I don't believe that a change at the coaching level is something being contemplated at this point. Chris Knoblauch just signed an extension. Chris Knoblauch has taken this team to 2 straight Stanley Cup finals. I don't think that they're in that range yet. Down the road, if flat out missing the playoffs becomes very real, if that happens, all bets are going to be off because at that point, the owner's probably involved, quite frankly. I don't think that's real in this moment. The goaltending, and you and I have been around and around and around on this one. Gino, I have to say, I think it feels more likely in this moment that Stuart Skinner ends up getting himself traded out of here than at any other point in the time that he has been here. I think that there was a patient approach taken to Stuart Skinner this year, seeing if he made some marked improvements in his game, seeing if his play ticked up, seeing if he showed signs that he was ready to find a different level. And yes, the team defensively has been terrible, but if you just shine a spotlight strictly on Stuart Skinner and his play this year, it hasn't been enough improvement, despite what the rest of the team has been doing. And I've said all along, I don't think Stan Bowman was going to let it ride for another playoff year with average, mediocre goaltending. And I think the signal that Skinner is sending the management team so far is that level of improvement they were hoping to see is not there. So I think this is becoming very, very real at this point.
Okay, so there are upgrades available out there. The only question is how high a price are the Oilers willing to pay to make that happen? Now they may have to overpay. And where are they looking? Do you have any indication of what this team sees as a potential upgrade that could be brought in right now? Or is that still in the preliminary stages?
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be in the preliminary stages. I mean, I would assume Stan Bowman has multiple targets, maybe even deals that are along the way. I mean, that's what general managers do, right? They have a list of things that they've got that they're working on, and I would assume they've got a list here. The name that we hear a lot of is Jordan Binnington. You know, and I don't think they'd be bringing Jordan Binnington in because they believe he's going to be an incredible upgrade during the regular season, right? You look at his regular season numbers and what he's done in the regular season, like there's not a lot of difference. But look what he did at the Four Nations, despite the regular season that he was having. Look, you know, what he did in the Stanley Cup playoffs, you know, after the Blues finally managed to make it there and was such a Cinderella story. He's got a proven track record. He's a more athletic goaltender. He moves the puck really well, which I think moves the dial for this team. But he makes $6 million. That's the thing, Gino. $6 million this year and next year. So even if you can get, so they take Skinner, and now you're partly there. Now you're going to get them to eat salary. Now, okay, how are you getting them to do that? What does that look like? What prospects are you giving them? Like, it gets tricky. The Binnington file is tricky. Oh, and by the way, don't know if you know this about Doug Armstrong. Prices are pretty high with Doug Armstrong, especially at this point in the season. So easier said than done. Stan Bowman's job to figure this out. My point is they're getting to the point where they're probably feeling like they're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah. Listen, through this brutal run, we've seen McDavid and company go through a number of different stages. First, they were optimistic, saying, relax, we'll be fine. Then there was frustration and anger at themselves and at others. But now they look physically and emotionally defeated, Shogger. What happened to their compete level?
Yeah, for sure. Compete is a huge issue with this team. And I think, look, the list of excuses that made sense for the first 15 games, let's be kind and say, back-to-back Stanley Cup finals where they lost and tough to re-energize after that. Fair. 16 out of their first 24 games on the road, a grisly road schedule. Fair. Injuries to energetic players like Zach Hyman to start the year, a bunch of new faces, and leaning on some young guys and new players. All of that stuff, I think you can fairly factor into part of the reason why they started the way they did. The statute of limitations on that list of excuses has run out. And it probably ran out 5, 6, 7, 8 games ago. The sense of urgency this team should have does not match the sense of urgency that they're playing the game with. So there's big time red flags. The competitive spirit of this team, for me, is very much in question. I think it's part coaching. I think that a coach needs to understand how to command a level of competitiveness from his group during a regular season that can stagnate. And I don't think Chris Knobloch has done a particularly good job of having his finger on the emotional pulse of this team and being able to get them to rev up when they need it. It's on the players. They're not showing the requisite competitiveness to be a competitive regular season team more games than not. Do we all think they can fire it up in the playoffs, Gino? We know they can. You can't be a docile, lifeless group for over a quarter of the regular season and think you can just flip a switch. So competitiveness, gamesmanship, huge issue with this group.
Yeah, and they're just not seeming like they're on the same page. McDavid had the great quote last night. He was asked about the goaltending, and he just said goaltending is a team thing. So I can't disagree with that. But if it's the case, is this group then unwilling or simply unable to play the kind of D they need to be able to play to win?
I believe they have the ability to turn it around defensively. Like, I really do, Gino. Some of their individual performances they've been getting this season have been atrocious. And at times, 3 or 4 of them playing atrocious at the same time. So I'll rip you through some numbers. And by the way, these numbers were before the Dallas debacle, as it's being labeled here in Edmonton. This is courtesy Sport Logic. Goals against, 28th. Expected goals against, 22nd. Slot shots against, 27th. Inner slot shots, 22nd. Slot passes, 23rd. Rush chances against, 32nd. Cycle chances against, 21st. And high danger chances, 31st. It's been an unmitigated disaster defensively, coupled with some disastrous starts to the season and individual performances. The lackluster group. I believe they can bite into this and fix a lot of this, Gino, because they have a lot of the same personnel that was one of the better defensive teams last year. So I think there's room for improvement. They just got to pull their heads out of their you-know-whats, and they got to hit rock bottom. They have to find rock bottom and dig in as a group. And that's on everybody. And it starts with the 2 big guys. I mean, 1 goal each, I think, in their last 5 games. It's just not good enough. Their emotional level has been dipping in and out. Their frustration has been dipping in and out. It starts with them, and it courses through the veins of this entire group. And they have not been nearly competitive enough and good enough. They're having trouble finding it.
I think we all agree the upside potential of this team is still there. They just need a spark. And as you say, that spark may come from Stan Bowman if he could make a key change in that.